Welcome to Focus Garage. Onder is here, and today we're going to talk about my weapon of choice for the iron butt trip. You guys already know what Mike is bringing or what he has done to his bike, and today we're going to talk about what I'm going to do to the bike and what I'm bringing. The trip is going to be about total of 2,500. The first leg is going to be 1,000 mile, less than 24 hour, and then the rest is going to be over 3 days coming back home after going to the trip. The more detailed video about the trip will be coming up later. We're going to discuss the roads and what we're going to do during the trip. So without further ado, first thing first, let's talk about the bike that I'm bringing. Well, I'm going to bring the 2014 Yamaha R1. The reason I picked is that I just want to do it on the R1 rather than a comfy bike and see how I can do it. That's a personal goal. And I did a little bit of research online to see if anyone else has done this. And I found many riders that did it. And they even did 1,500 mile less than 24 hour, which is impressive on an R1. Salute to them. But today we're going to talk about what I'm going to do to prepare this bike and me for this trip. So let's get to it. We're going to start with the maintenance before we start with the modification to make sure that we have 100% bike before the trip. So first we're going to do the oil and oil filter, and then we're going to move on to the chain. We're going to clean it and wax it and lube it. And after that, before we go on the trip, we're going to check the tire pressure, make sure we have all good tire pressure on both ends, and we're going to check the brakes, the life of the pads and the disc, and also look at the brake fluid to make sure we have good brake fluid. After that, one more thing I'm going to do before the trip is this bike has been sitting over the winter, so the gas in it, even though it has a stable, I'm going to empty it and put a fresh gas in it, make sure that we have no problem with gas. So let's move on to the first modification that we're going to do this bike to make sure that I am comfy. So the R1 doesn't have a comfy seat, obviously, because it's a Supersport, not a street cruiser or whatever. So I'm going to change the seat with a comfier one to help me with this journey. There were a couple of options out there, number one and number two, in no particular order, is the Yamaha comfy seat and the Corbin seat. So the Yamaha comfy seat, even though there were a lot of people saying that it was a good seat, I couldn't find any reviews that would uphold to 1,000-mile journey, in 24 hours. So I went with Corbin seat because I had rider friends that has been using Corbin seat for a really long time, and they gave me positive feedback on that. So we're gonna put that Corbin seat on it, and then we're gonna take off and see how it goes. And I will have a more in-depth review after the journey about the Corbin seat. So the number two will be the throttle lock. I know it's a controversial topic, and not a lot of people like the throttle lock, but for this, I feel like it would be necessary for me to relax my throttle hand time to time, switching my left to right and right to left. Never let go of the bar. That won't be the case. But I need something that hold the throttle for me. I had a cheap one from Amazon to try it out, see how I like the throttle lock, but never worked. Never locked the throttle and always slipped. So I reached out to Atlas and I asked them about their product and told them what I'm going to do with the R1. And they were very kind to send me one to try it out. So we're going to install that on this bike, and I will have a review before the trip how good of a product it is, and then we're going to have another review after the trip, and I'll tell you guys pros and cons throughout the trip if there is any. But so far it's a very good, well-built unit, and it comes with everything you need to install on your bike. So far it's pretty good. Third would be the final thing for the bike would be the luggage. Since it's a long trip, I need to bring some stuff with me, like clothes and stuff. And to be able to do that, I was looking at tail bags, but I couldn't find anything because I couldn't find anything that would work with my aftermarket exhaust. I couldn't have any 100% confirmation. So for that, I went with a tank bag. I know tank bags are not that good because they're small compared to the tail bags, and they might damage your paint if you're not careful with it. So a couple things I'm going to do to protect my paint. I'm going to put a protective layer on between the tank bag and the tank itself, And I'm going to make sure that any loose wire or straps, whatever, it would be all tucked in, and make sure there's nothing moving while going on the road. The other thing about the tank bag is that you're going to make sure that you have a metal tank instead of a plastic one. Half of my tank in the front is plastic and the rest is metal, so it's going to be a little bit back compared to how I would like to be sitting. So that might be uncomfortable on the ride. We'll find out. The other thing is that it's covering the fuel cap. So when I'm putting any fuel in it, I have to take the tank off. I have to take the bag off and refuel, and then put the tank back on. These are really minor stuff. You can overcome with a little bit of protection and, not caring about refueling. The other thing is that I'm going to be packing really light, so that's going to be benefit for this trip. The places that we're going have laundry, so I'll be washing my clothes when we get to those places, so I don't have to carry a lot of stuff. So let's move on to the little stuff that I'll be bringing. I'll be bringing quart of oil, like an oil filter, just in case, because I had an oil filter failure in the past, so I just want to make sure that won't happen. And chain loop, because we have to lube our chains every 300 to 500 miles, depending on, the weather. And then I'll be bringing a small toolbox that has like very simple tools to be able to fix this bike. This bike didn't come with the toolbox, so that'll be a positive. This will wrap up the video. If you guys have any questions or concerns about it, please let me know. This will be my first really long trip, and probably I'm doing some stuff wrong or some stuff right. I have no idea. We'll find out once the trip is done. I'll be back, and we'll have a more in-depth review of the throttle lock, installation of the throttle lock, in-depth review of the throttle lock, and also I want to do a review of the seat before and after the trip to give you guys a more honest opinion about the Corbin seat. So yeah, thanks for watching. Kudos to all.